dun. Turn this down to my ear. Alright, back to work. Hey Frost, hope you're doing well. Sorry if you can hear my fan going off, it is hot. So I am not chancing that today. Hello Quackers. Your patterns are on your arm like that. I don't know, I'm just testing it out mostly to see if it's better than streaming at night. Or maybe I'll do both. And then like in between will be when I'm working on stuff that I can't stream. Like this is fine to stream. There's nothing like super major going on this page other than her stuffing her face, or about to stuff her face in this particular panel. But yeah, figured I'd give it a shot. And I've streamed early before, but might make this a more regular thing. Ooh. Well, that's good. That had not had that must not have been fun. Oh, yeah, that would have sucked. Especially if there was like a vent or something near your bed. Ah, what'd you get? Center arm, a little bit more visible. Could probably do this. See how that looks. Yeah, leave it alone. There is big gun another way, but it's gone now. Yeah, as long as it's gone, then you're good. Ooh, that's not bad. 9.5. I mean, that's pretty much great, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, congrats. This bigger. Oh, following you on Twitter? I didn't see why not. I was like, oh yeah, Frost, I should follow Frost, and so I did. Well, thank you for thinking that I'm your favorite artist. I'm like, I'm sure there are people better, but okay. But yeah, I understand. Like, that's happened with me a few times where people that I I don't know if looking up to is the right word, but like, you know, this artists and creators that like follow me for random reasons. Because I've had like comic artists follow me on some things here and there. Or some voice actors, or just random people that I've met or talked to over the years. True, true. You did say one of. But still. I never think of myself in that way, that's why I'm all like, yeah. Like, yay, he thinks I'm cool. But yeah, I will always see myself as just, I don't know, just a basic person. But that's just my own personal view. Oh my god, it's afternoon for you over there? Jesus. Yeah, there's always fun times. Okay. Any other locations of her spots? What about her right hand? Let's see here. Should be fine. Thoughts of the cow? I like the cow. Glad they added it to the game. not mean to hit the microphone. Well, yeah, the cow was always part of the series. Yeah, apparently they're adding Minecraft to the Sonic Racer one too. For Mario Kart, I'm more surprised that they haven't turned Mario Kart into basically like Smash Brothers, but Mario Kart. Which you think that would be the smart idea for them to do. Anything piqued my interest? Probably the Marvel Togon game. I'll have to rewatch the event again to see if there were any more, but that's the one that stood out the most. Like, did they add more Zelda characters to Mario Kart World? Or is it just still Link? Assuming Link is even in that version. Yeah, that was where I was getting at. I was surprised that they didn't try to make the next Mario Kart like a Smash Brothers Mario Kart, since they added in some Animal Crossing and Link to the previous one. I was like, oh yeah, they're doing that. Okay, the smart thing to do is to just do that, but with Nintendo, with a bunch of Nintendo characters. So have like Kirby show up and Fire Emblem or whoever else you want to add. It wouldn't be a different game altogether. It'd just be Mario Kart, but with other characters. I mean, you could make it a different type of game by like giving the characters like attacks while they're racing, or have their final smashes be, you know, some sort of power up, or either like a power up that they can get mid race, or they like build up meter by collecting coins, and then they use that to attack. Yeah, there's always the possibility of Kirby's air ride to do that. But yeah, like that would have been the go-to idea personally. Yeah, this is gonna take a while to draw all these hot dogs. It's like, Caitlin, you fat bitch, why the hell are you getting all these hot dogs? I'm just gonna have them piled up on each other in some weird way. Not like she would care anyway. Yeah, they would be fun to have different vehicles. Obviously, you'd have the Star, but then yeah, the other ones like the Rainbow Glider, or even the vehicle that he uses in Star Allies would be really good. And then of course the wheelie vehicle. That one's a classic. Some big ass hot dogs. Some of these I'm gonna end up copying and pasting just to save me some time. And I'll like alter them a bit so that the way they're not entirely the same. Good morning. But yeah, I figured streaming in the morning would be a good idea that I can probably attempt more often. Like I was ready to stream last night, but then like towards the time that I was getting to, I was just feeling drained, and I was like, I cannot. So I went to sleep. And I slept like a rock for a good while. Finally cheating? I've been cheating with that thing. With copy and paste. Fat Princess remake. I mean, if it happens, it happens. I don't know what companies are thinking anymore. Like, half the time it's like, hey, here's this really good thing, and then they don't do it. Or if they do it, they like ruin it in some way. Like, there's always like some monkey paw moment where it's like, yeah, we got the game we wanted, but it's online only and it comes with a shit ton of microtransactions or some shit. And you just sit there going like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's like, here's Fat Princess, but you only get like 3 levels and it's mobile only. I don't know, I'm just talking. You get 3 levels and the rest you gotta pay for. And then even worse is if it's like, well, it wasn't doing that well, so we're ending service, and it's only been like a month, and so the game dies, and you can't even play it, even though you downloaded it and spent money on it to make it a better game. I think if anything, that's like the worst thing that can happen is when companies like make things as a live service or put it on mobile, and then when the game's about to die, they just decide to like not make it available offline for some fucking reason, even though it has plenty of features to make it be offline. What does Becky think of Quackable? I have no idea, but she probably think Quackable had a fat ass. If I was being perfectly honest, she'd be like, "Damn, what the hell was I feeding you?" Let's move that back to the beginning. Well, there's always that possibility that they can convert the games to offline, because some games that were online when they first came out did get converted to offline. So, like for example, hopefully Arknights does that, because there's plenty of offline stuff that you can play the game for. Even the roguelike mode where it like randomizes stuff, just make that an offline thing and there you go. Because they have like 2 or 3 different modes that use that. So it's really not a difficult task, it just boils down to whether or not they actually do it. And then they did the same thing for what was it, Mega Man X Dive, I think that's what it was. They made the offline version on Steam. I think they made it available physically, but I know it's on Steam because I got it for that. I was glad they did that because that thing came with like so many different fucking costumes and stuff. Battleborn, I never played that, but if that's the same case, then yeah, just do the same thing to that, if possible. But yeah, if there's like a really cool mobile game that everybody likes, but the only problem is that it was a mobile game, or that it was like stuck online, or whatever the case may be, just convert it. Like that Sonic game that's only for fucking Apple Mobile. Just change that to a regular platform. Like even if it's still like if the difficulty is still as simple or whatever as it was on the Apple Mobile version, who cares? Just make that available to be able to play, and people will fucking get it. Oh god, you know this from 2010s? This game is so much older. I mean, I understand. But yeah, definitely. Like, Sonic R always has awesome music. It's always gonna be a classic. Like, you can hate the controls, because, you know, that's fair. The controls weren't exactly the best, but the music is just timeless. Funny thing is, though, despite the controls, my brother, when he was younger, I don't know if he could still do it nowadays, but like when he was younger, he destroyed Sonic R. He got super good at it, and he understood the controls very quickly, and he unlocked everything in the game. He just destroyed that game. Like, the gameplay just kind of, well, not, it doesn't play exactly like this, but it almost reminds me of Biker Mice from Mars for the Super Nintendo. The way you play that game, you have to, like, tap your direction before the turn comes, so that way you can turn properly. You've been addicted to Nikke? Nikke, I got to the point where I don't need to whale. I mean, I never did in the first place, but I'm at that point in the game where I can basically unlock whatever character I want when they release it, because I have like enough tickets and gems or whatever to get the character, and then I just play. Like I have no interest in maxing out the character. If I end up maxing them out, then I max them out, but I have like no interest in that. I just like playing it. What the fuck is a Sonic? Alright, we're gonna copy and paste some of this and morph it. Do like this. And we'll change whatever I need to change. Living in the city. Seriously, if they were to like make newer Sonic games, but with like the 90s feel, in terms of like music and I guess in some ways in style as well, I think that would go really hard in for modern games, because they're just, like, it feels like after I want to say Sonic Adventure and maybe Adventure 2, but more Adventure 1, they kind of lost their 90s feel in terms of like presentation and style. Because like the music, like even though Sonic music is still good, even today, it kind of lost that whole whimsical fantasy type of mood that you would get from certain levels. Let me catch up on. Limerick them is not good enough. Yeah, like, because right now I'm at the thing for Nikke where all of my characters are the same level now because I have that synergy thing working. So they're all currently, what is it? I think they're at 297, I think. Like, it's a slow grind, but I level that up like what, every 1 or 2 days or so. But everything else I just kind of like streamline it. It's just like like a daily thing. Like it takes me like 20-30 minutes to get through it all, depending on what I do. But most of the time it's really short. What, you're on chapter 27? I forget what chapter I'm on. I'm just going through it just to get rewards. Like I'm not even paying attention to the story, to be honest. Some characters I'll see like, oh, that character looks cool, and then that's it. Or they show like a cutscene. I was like, oh, that's neat. Do you think if Sonic Extreme came out, they could have helped the Saturn in North America, or would have been steamrolled by the PSX? I don't know whether or not it would have helped it, but I think just the issues that it had at the time was mostly its downfall, like the pricing or like requiring multiple accessories and stuff just to make something work. Kind of like how you had the Sega Genesis, then you had the 32X, which goes on top of that. Then there was like a bunch of other shit, like the CD was also an attachment at one point. Saturn, of course, is its own thing, but I think there's just some stuff that was just like a snowball effect. I don't think Extreme specifically would have helped, but it definitely would have boosted interest. Because, I mean, obviously you want a Sonic game. Like, if you get a Sonic game on a Sega console, you're gonna sell something. But yeah, it was probably just like a perfect storm type of scenario. But yeah, I feel like in some ways Sonic games not exactly lost their identity, but just like kind of lost their style, like their move. Because Sonic games have pretty much remained the same in terms of like identity. It's like, okay, you got Sonic, blah blah blah, stop Robotnik, you're done. And then you introduce new characters or like a new concept of something. I will say though that Sonic has at least in the comics. I mean, well, in IDW, it pretty much is the same thing because it bleeds over to the games now because they're canon. But they're like slowly making, well, not slowly, but they're like making Sonic become more and more like Goku in terms of like, here's the villains. I'm not gonna do anything about them. I'm just gonna stop them from trying to take over the world and then let them go. It's like, what do you mean let them go? At least have a prison design, which they do have one every once in a while in the Sonic comics. It's like a prison exists, but you don't see much happening with it. Because in the Archie comics, they had like an actual prison, and there was like a ton of characters in there. In the IDW, as far as I'm aware, there's only been like one or two. There might have been more. I'm just misremembering. But like it feels like the Goku scenario where he'll fight an opponent, and the opponent is literally there to destroy the planet or whatever, like, you know, Frieza, for example. And then he'll just let them go or attempt to not kill them unless it's like necessary. And like when it's necessary, it's like almost after the fact of so many people getting killed, or in one of the movies, the planet literally explodes. And then they like gave Goku a second chance to rewind time and, you know, seal the deal. But it was just like, damn, Goku, it took you an entire fucking planet exploding to decide to kill this opponent. And sadly, that's happened twice. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. That the planet had to explode due to some, well, Boo is a bit of a question mark, because it's like one of those situations where could Goku have done something in that situation? Because it had to do with Kid Buu blowing up the planet. Or could there have been more to it? Because like I think they did say, like, you know, Goku shouldn't have made certain actions during that season, like fighting Vegeta when Vegeta was being mind controlled, for example. It's like all you did was speed up Buu being revived by fighting Vegeta. So scenarios like that are like, what the hell? Yeah, Nintendo. Yeah, like it took forever for Shadow to get any development because they were super tight leashed on Shadow up until recently with the Shadow generations. Yeah, like they have a prison, but they barely use it. That's my problem. It's like, okay, you have a prison, but you're not using it that much, or you're not using it for the characters that really deserve it. Because in the Archie comics, that thing was full of tons of characters. I've noticed how many younger fans reject Sonic being dramatic amongst. No, I think it's just a lot of them don't understand why people like certain aspects of older Sonic stuff. And I think they just don't understand or get it. Like, for the Freedom Fighters, for example, the Freedom Fighters were the first, like, lore-heavy Sonic-related content that we ever got. Including the Archie comic versions. And so, like, that was, like, Sonic's first actual relationship. It was, like, his first, like, hey, here's the planet destroyed by Dr. Robotnik because he managed to take over. Here's the development of, like, Sonic working with others, aside from Tails. And Tails, you know, stuck around as well, because, you know, they carried him over. So he got some character development here and there. Of course, we had the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, but that series was up and down when it came to lore, because sometimes there would be relevant stuff, and other times there would be like just random nonsense, because it was a standard cartoon. It was just supposed to jump from story to story every week. And we'll stop it about here. Yeah, exactly. It just had more. It had more lore and content going on, and established stories and stuff. Like the reason why we have Sonic eating chili dogs is because of the Adventures series, and or the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sad AM, and they carried that in the comics. Like, they carried that over because that was a thing. Like, even Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Genesis made a small little hint at that because it was in there. Because of the adventures and all that. Well, unfortunately, because of the stuff that happened with Ken Penders, that's because Sega had to reel in what creators were able to do with their characters because of what happened with Ken Penders. And so, you know, they have the final say of, you know, what happens with characters being added or any lore being added to existing characters, because the IDW comics are now canon to the games, at least currently they are. So that means Sega has to be really anal about what gets added to the comics, because that will reflect onto the games in some way. I don't know when, because so far the closest we ever got were just name drops. We haven't really had anything from the comics actually appear in the games yet. Yeah, like, Sonic wasn't shown eating a chili dog until, like, it was either Unleashed or it was Black Knight. That was the first time he had a chili dog appear for him to actually eat in a game. And then the Freedom Fighters are canon to the games because of Sonic Spinball, which they do consider canon to the games. So the Freedom Fighters do exist, and they consider Spinball to be or like the planet Mobius is where Spinball takes place on, and that is considered its own planet. or I'm pretty sure they said it was a planet for now. So somehow Sonic got to that planet to help save the day in terms of the games. But yeah, the characters are in the games technically. But yeah, they gave us something, so now it's a matter of whether or not they plan on bringing those characters over or using them more. And unfortunately, and the biggest problem is that unfortunately they've basically developed their current characters with Sonic enough where it's like, okay, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy are basically the freedom fighters, with the addition of, like, you know, other characters like Whisper and Tangle and whoever else. And so it almost negates the point of having the freedom fighters, but the freedom fighters can also just be their own faction. So you can work on that. I did hear, though, a grapevine that, yeah, their data is in the, or at least Sally and Nicole's data is in the mobile game, but whether or not they actually use it is another question. So it could be just placeholder information, so it could be like, oh, we want to use those characters, but whether or not we get the okay is up to Sega type of scenario. So I want to hope that they get added in the global version, or whatever the case may be, because Sega's not stupid. They are 100% aware of which characters Sonic fans really love, and they know damn well that if they capitalize on the SAT-AM characters, or even the Adventures series, the Adventures of series, that they could get Sonic fans' attention. Like, it's not hard at all. Yeah, Sonic Blitz, but yeah, like, it's not hard to make that work. It just boils down to what Sega is willing to do about it. And I would say that if they did get added to Blitz first and they worked out, like everybody loves it or whatever, then there's a higher chance of the characters appearing in the games, in the mainline games. So it's kind of one of those, like, baby step moments where it's like they might bleed them into the mainline games slowly. Because right now, Whisper and Tangle are in the Rush game, or the Runners games for mobile, but they're not in a mainline thing yet. But they did get mentioned, or at least Tangle did, in Frontiers. So it's one of those slow things where it's like, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? But it's also a stubborn thing where I don't know why Sega is taking so long to utilize these characters. Because, again, it's probably like the Nintendo mentality where they always gotta do something new and not use something old, even if they only used it one time. And granted, the SAT-AM characters will probably not act like the way they did in the Archie comics, because obviously those are two different storylines going compared to the games and stuff like that. Different events have happened and stuff like that, and obviously certain characters just can't show up because either Sega doesn't own them, or Sega might have issues with copyright in the future for some bullshit or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, it's a fucking juggling act. So if it happens, hopefully it happens without any idiotic issues. Kind of like how they showed an echidna with chaos powers in one of the Sonic movies, and I think for like a short while, Penders was trying to figure out if that was something he could sue over because it reminded them of Enerjack. But yeah, like Penders is one of the reasons why Knuckles will barely get any character development because he made so many like echidna based storylines with tribal stuff and stuff like that, and basically reusing the Superman idea. He did so much with that it's really hard to develop Knuckles now because of that scenario. That's probably why they made Trip, because she basically has the same role as Knuckles, but she doesn't have any of the same problems that he does. Like, she's not the last of her kind. She wasn't really taking her role seriously until she met Knuckles, and now she's trying to be a better guardian. And then you have Blaze the Cat, which is basically Sonic and Knuckles fused together with fire powers, because she basically does literally the same thing that Knuckles does, but she's like in charge of a whole empire, and she's also like Sally too put together. So you have that. Like, for a moment, they probably could have used Blaze as like the replacement for Sally back in the day, but now there's like too much that's gone on with her to do that. Yeah, Knuckles is fucked when it comes to lore. Like, the most we can do with him now is just make lore around his lore. So, like, because he's the last of his kind, it's like, okay, why is that? And then you have basically the storyline of Frontiers, which explains so much shit, as well as Sonic Adventure. So it's like, okay, cool. This is what happened to Knuckles, to Knuckles' people. Knuckles is the Guardian. He's watching over an emerald that basically is alien tech, or well, it's not alien tech because the Master Emerald was already on Earth before the alien race got there. So yeah, it's like you make lore around his lore. That's basically all you can really do. Just let Whisper and Tangle be Yuri. Well, technically, it is officially unofficial that Whisper and Tangle are Yuri. Like, they basically are, but they're not gonna say they are. That's where they are status-wise in terms of the comics. They just won't say it officially for some fucking reason. But they basically are, from what I've heard from the writers and stuff like that. Yeah, bring in Surge, because she's a really fun character. My only problem with Shadow is that they don't really give him anything to do outside of Shadow Generations, because before that point it was like, okay, we're gonna send him on missions, I guess, but then it's like every once in a while people are like saying, or they're trying to say that he's like Sonic's rival, but he isn't, because Sonic and him have nothing to be rivals about. If anything, Knuckles is more of Sonic's rival than anything, because currently Knuckles is the only fucking character to punch out a super form in its base form. But yeah, like, Shadow really doesn't have anything going for him until recently. And even then, it wasn't really anything super critical. It was just more like, okay, gotta stop this guy from fucking up time. And then he does, and unfortunately he has to accept that, he can't change the past. Which, that game slightly butchered Rouge because of her reaction to Shadow. I was like, bitch, you would have never acted like that. It's like, what are you doing? Blaze is using her pyrokinesis to play to play in the Himalayas round. What does it say? Why is this not translating? Hold on. Trying to figure out know what you said. No, god damn it. Hold on. This is being stupid. Oh, there we go. Amazing female character comics. Yeah, exactly. I saw a fun animation of Surge singing the real some shit. That's funny. But yeah, like, Surge is a really fun character. Oops. Is a really fun character. They should definitely use her more. Especially in the games. She would be an awesome rival to show up in the games where, like, you could have it be like you're playing a level normally, you're like blazing through it, however the gameplay is for that game, and then suddenly midway Surge shows up, and then you have like a high speed fight, and you have to like fight her off, and like don't have her always showing up in each level. Have her show up like every once in a while, like 2 or 3 levels or so, and then there you go. Or if they're really bold, they can try to have her show up randomly during battles or during levels. So like anytime there's like a high speed area or something like that, then there's like a chance of her showing up. I would say that's probably not the best route to go with, but it would be interesting if they could pull that off. But yeah, there's just a ton of characters that Sega is sitting on that they're not using, that they're allowed to use. And I feel that it's like the same scenario that Nintendo is with some of their characters and lore, where it's like they just don't want to. Kind of like what happened with Rosalina in the Mario series, where she had a ton of lore in the game that she was in because I guess it was put in without Miyamoto's knowledge. And then after that, we never got anything like it ever again. Or like in the Paper Mario games, where the first bundle of games were very lore heavy, but then afterwards they barely did anything with story. The only characters that they would use were the like Toads and Goombas and, you know, standard characters, nothing unique. And then that was it. We were just kind of stuck with it. And of course they go back to re-releasing the older games because they were much more popular and better. Yeah, exactly. It'd be like Proto Man. Or Breakman, as he was in that game. But yeah, definitely having it like that would be fun. Like, just have like an area that is made for Surge to show up in, and then it's like a coin toss of whether or not she actually appears. So that way it'll keep you on your toes. You're like, oh shit, is she gonna show up here? Is she gonna show up here? And you could even have her be like a speed run killer type of character, where she's designed to ruin that. Like if you're trying to like blitz through the game, you're like, oh okay, we're trying to get the world record. You can see everybody sitting there cheering. It's like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna make the. And then all of a sudden, Surge shows up mid stream, and everyone's like, ah, and they get all pissed off that Surge shows up. Like I could totally see that happening, and that would be great. Oh yeah, like the Bowsette thing. Like obviously they can't use the version that got popular because technically that's not their character. But with the version that they did have in the concept art, they could easily just rework that version into Bowsette, or even Wabu Peach. They could always just use that version because she was basically just what was her name? Was it Dandara? Oh god, this is gonna bug me. Hello. It wasn't Dandro, it was hold on. Daranjo, that was her name. I was like, god damn it, I know her name. Yeah, she was basically just Daranjo, so fuck it. You might as well, since you already made Wario and Waluigi. Alright, take care. I just realized the hello didn't match what you were saying. Okay, toss in some background character to react to. It's her about to down a shit ton of hot dogs. But yeah, it just... At least when it comes to Sega, there's a higher chance of shit happening than with Nintendo. Because when the whole Bowsette thing happened, all they did was just put a stop to it by just saying like, oh, sorry Luigi, you can't wear the crown. Not like it stopped anybody from making fan art of it, but it's like they had an idea and then there was an idea that everybody liked, and their response to it was just to shut it down. Whereas with Sonic, or with Sega at least, when it comes to Sonic stuff, they're like, nah, we'll capitalize on this in some way. So who knows? Maybe older stuff like the Freedom Fighters will have their time in modern games. It's just a super, super, super slow burn. And the stuff with Ken Benders didn't help. So it could just be that kind of scenario where it's like, it can happen, but it's gonna take a while. And if Sonic Blitz does add in Sally and Nicole and Bunny, then there's a pretty good chance that we can get something to happen. Because I will tell you right now, if those characters get added to Sonic Blitz, I will play that game. I mean, they already had me at it being a Sonic card game. But if you add those characters, that will guarantee that I play that game. Yeah, right? It's like we have we have the nonsense of like, oh, we don't want more stuff with Bowsette. Meanwhile, they throw in Elephant Peach, and Bowser's super into it. And I'm like, make up your fucking mind. I'm glad they did that with Bowser though, because all that did was just build more ammo for artists. I'm just surprised that they are so back and forth with their characters. Because like people understand the characters, and they also understand that obviously art of characters doesn't make that shit canon. That's the fun part. It's like, oh, this isn't canon, but I'm gonna draw it anyway because it's fun. And then if they do make it canon, obviously they're gonna add their own twist to it, but it's fun that they did it. Which is why with Sega will either make things canon, adjust it so that it can be canon, or they'll make a nod to it. Like they might not use it, but there's like a chance that they'll make a nod to it. It's like, okay, we aren't gonna do this, but we are gonna acknowledge that it exists. type of thing. Which is why people are excited that Cosmo might be showing up, because we've already got multiple hints that that Tails has her seed in the potted plant in the background of a bunch of artwork, and in the background of the Sonic Dream game. So Sega's not afraid to like acknowledge certain things. It's just a matter of if they plan to go on further than just making a nod to it. And again, when it comes to Knuckles, totally understand why Knuckles is getting the short end of the stick, because what more can they do with him? Unless they like completely retcon his background or like readjust it so that we can dive more into him, like whether or not he's the only Echidna. Is Shade gonna get... Because like Shade's in a weird spot. She's in a spot where she is usable, but they would basically have to abandon whatever story that they were going to give her in Brotherhood, because Brotherhood, I guess, is too close to the Brotherhood from Campenders. And so honestly, I think the only way they could do anything is like, what if Knuckles' people are just on another planet? Like, he's not the last of his kind, he's just for whatever reason not with them. That's like the only way I could really think about it. It's like, okay, they're not a lost civilization, they're not some like evil cult or whatever, they're not trying to take over the world. They have their own military, which is fine, which is where you can get Shade having her armor so she could be a military troop, which she was in the games anyway, so that makes sense. And just say that once they figured out the technology of the Master Emerald or whatever, they all just left the planet and said, fuck it. It's like, nah, we're not staying on Earth, we're going elsewhere. Like, the options are very limited. But there's a suggestion of what they could do with Knuckles that wouldn't impede on Ken Penders' works. And then just have Shade be a returning character, but with just a adjusted background. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Knuckles that they have to walk on thin ice. But yeah, like I said, like the only thing you can really do with Knuckles is to make lore around his lore. Yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy with the hand. Because outside of that, I have no idea what you could do with Knuckles. Because like they could just do what they did similar to the comic that he had with Trip, where he's like more of a mentor because he's the last of his kind. Or you could make a villain that has to do with why his people are no longer around. Like, sure, we have Chaos that kind of hints to that, but you could go further than that. You could say, like, you know, Chaos was the match, while the new villain was the wood or something. No, you could say Chaos was the wood, whereas the new villain was the match to light the fire of the extinction of Knuckles is kind, or whatever happens to him, whether they all got left and went to another planet or whatever. Whatever it takes to make that make sense and work, and not have any legal bullshit. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but you would have to really analyze everything so that way there's no problems. Because it would be fun to have more Echidna characters like Shade. Because Shade was really cool, and it sucks that we only got her for one game. Because I always had her in my party because she was so fucking sick. And I understand that changing the characters kind of defeats the point because they are no longer who they were when they first appeared. Like, I understand that, but it's either that or you just don't get the characters at all. And depending on the scenario, that can be a good or bad thing. Like, for example, it's kind of like when it comes to like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like, I would prefer them not to errata cards unless it is absolutely necessary, like if the card doesn't function the way it's supposed to. So like for example, Fairy King Truesdale, his effect is when the card originally came out, the effect was just while he's in play, all plant monsters gain an extra 500 attack and defense. It's either 500 attack or 500 attack and defense. And because he was a, I believe a 2200 monster, he would gain the benefit because he's a plant monster. So you become a 2700 monster that's a level 6. Which, if that had stayed the way it was, he would have been like the strongest level 6 monster for that reason. But in his case, it was a translation error where the real effect of the card was as long as he's in defense position, all plant monsters gain that buff. So in that specific scenario, yes, an errata is fine because the card is not acting the way it was supposed to. But when you have situations like Crush Card Virus came out and its effect was sacrifice a dark monster that's 1000 attack or less, and for 3 turns your opponent loses all monsters in first all monsters on the field and in their hand at 1500 or more are destroyed, and then for 3 turns any card they draw they reveal it, and if it's a monster that's 1500 or higher then it's destroyed. Cool. Then the card gets banned because it's really powerful or whatever. It was either it was really powerful or it was because only certain people had Crush Card Virus, and I think they were just like people that went to tournaments that had it. But anyway, it gets banned. Then when they bring it back, they errata it where the effect is you offer a monster that's 1500 or more, or that's 1000 or less, then destroys all monsters on the field that are 1500 or less, or 1500 or more from the field in hand. Then your opponent selects 3 monsters from their deck and sends them to the graveyard. That's it. Like, it completely changes the effect. It makes it worse than it was originally. And now no one wants to use Crush Card Virus because it's a bad card and it no longer functions the way it originally did when it was made. And it just ruins the legacy of the card. So in scenarios like that, I would rather than just keep the card banned and keep it the way it is, and if they really want to bring it back and have different effects to make it more balanced, then you just make a new card. Just call it Crush Card Symptoms, or Crush Card Disease, or Crush Card Mist. Like, they could have done anything to make that better, and they chose the worst possible route. Okay, so got that. I think That character's fine, so we can merge them together. Yeah, there's like, honestly, with most cards nowadays, a lot of the cards that they've errated could probably go back to being normal, and it wouldn't make much of a difference. Like Yatagarasu is legal right now, and nobody cares because Yatagarasu cannot do what newer cards can do. Because a lot of the cards that were really powerful were made when the game was slow. But because the game is on high octane now, it's like, damn, what do we even do? Like, I will say probably one of the few cards that are like actually still good in like no matter when you bring it back is something like Galaxy Eye's Antimatter Dragon. Like, that card is really good because that card sends, what was it, 5 dragons from your deck to the graveyard automatically. And it's like, why would you not use that? And then obviously Pot of Greed is still good, because you just get 2 cards for free, and it shrinks your deck. Graceful Charity is still good. I'm sure, I mean, I'd have to look at the list, but yeah, I'm sure there's like a lot of cards that either are still good because of whatever busted effects they had, like Painful Choice, or they could probably be errated now, or turned back to normal now, and it wouldn't make much of a difference, unless they're like super broken, where it's like they create an infinite loop or something. But even then, if that was the case and they just made like an infinite loop, I would just make the cards back to normal and just ban them. It's like, again, that's literally what the ban list is for. And then I think one of the other problems with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they don't emphasize on other formats at all. It's like, oh, here's the advanced format. Nobody plays it because everybody plays like they're playing at a tournament, so everything's playing on forbidden rules. And even though technically other formats exist, Konami does not do anything with them. Like they what was like a year or 2 ago, maybe 3 years ago, they put out a whole form of, hey, here's a bunch of other formats you can play. They made like Time Wizard format, Underdog format, Deckmaster format. They made all these other formats, and they didn't do shit with them. It's like, okay, cool, here's all these other formats, goodbye. Like, they could have run tournaments that based off of that if they wanted to, and made like, you know, their own ban lists for each of the formats, but they didn't do anything for it, so it was just kind of like, whatever. Yeah, a lot of, like, honestly, unless you're playing competitive and you're playing with like a meta deck, chances are you're going to lose the first turn, because unless your deck is running hand traps to prevent your opponent from going super crazy on the first turn, there's an extremely high chance you're going to lose on the first turn. Because of how crazy the game is now. Because there's a lot of one-card combos. There's a lot of field negates, or negates that get set up. Is it still possible to win? Sure. But that possibility is low if you're not playing meta. Like, low to almost non-existent, depending on the deck. And then some decks just need further support in order to be actual decks or to be able to play. So like for example, Orichalcos, there's only been like what 3 or 4 cards that even relate to the Seal of Orichalcos, or at least mention it in some way, or mention it in their names or something. But that's it. Like there hasn't been an actual Orichalcos deck yet, despite the cards for it being used in the anime over a decade ago. Because I think of all the cards that Darts has used, only Seal of Orichalcos, Orichalcos Shinra's, and that might be it, honestly. Oh, and Divine Serpent Ge. Those are the only 3 cards I can remember that have actually shown up from Seal of Orichalcos. Everything else does not exist. We don't have the Psychic Armor cards. We don't have any of the Giant Mech Robo or whatever the hell that thing was called. Ziggurat. We have some of the Dragon cards. We have some of the Guardian cards. Or most of the Guardian cards, because Guardians were a thing before. Were a thing, I think, either during or before the anime. Oh yeah. Well, depends, because what made Exodia good back, well, because back in the day there was a scenario where the Exodia pieces were not limited, and people did make a deck of 3 pieces of Exodia each piece, and then because there was no Forbidden list back then, you would have 3 Sangans and 3 Witch of the Black Forest, and then you would get rid of them with like Cannon Soldier or whatever in order to get the pieces pretty much immediately, and then you just stack the deck with like Pot of Greeds and Graceful Charities, and you would basically win. So there was a moment where that was a thing. Nowadays, 3 Exodia pieces or 3 of each Exodia pieces would probably be a horrible idea to even make a deck of. Is it possible to get to draw them all on the first turn? Sure, but very low still. Definitely wouldn't help you if you made a deck with nothing with those. But nowadays they have the Exodia deck, or the new Exodia support, where all you need is like 1 or 2 cards, and you basically get the Exodia fusion, which is a really decently strong card, because not only can you not target it, it can't be destroyed by effects. It can negate a card once per turn. It gains attack power based on your life points. And at the end of the turn that you summon it, you can get that one trap that basically board wipes. So it's kind of like, well, damn. And then, of course, they have cards that let you get Exodia as a viable win condition. So it just depends. But yeah, having 3 copies of each, probably nobody would do, realistically, nowadays, because of how quickly the game is meta-wise. But yeah. Because the only thing you gotta worry about with Exodia is that his effect is a passive. Like, it's not an effect that you can negate. Like, unless a card said negate the effects of cards in your opponent's hand, then Exodia can't be prevented, because it's not an effect that activates. Because most cards say your opponent cannot activate card effects from the hand. But yeah, at least back then, Exodia being limited made sense because there was so much you could do to get Exodia. Like, I mean, there's still ways to get Exodia nowadays, even with it limited. Like, people have made Exodia decks to specifically get Exodia. Is it as viable nowadays? Probably not, because of Ash Blossom and other cards that prevent you from drawing so much or adding cards to your hand. But it's still a doable thing. But like, if you're trying to make a deck of, say, level monsters, good luck, because level monsters need an extreme amount of support. I think what hurt them the most was when they came out with that one card that says you can special summon a level monster from your graveyard, ignoring their summoning conditions. And then they had to clarify, oh no, you have to summon them onto the field first before you can bring them back from the graveyard. Despite there being no rule that supports this. So they kind of just made it up. Because you know there's been several cards where it's like, oh, this monster must be special summoned or cannot be special summoned except by blah 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 blah, and then you do something that says otherwise to bring it back from your graveyard, whether it be discarded or whatever, and it says and like ignores the rulings or whatever. But because it was never on the field, you can't touch it. So it's really, and that's why they had to put in the must first be special summoned clause in a lot of cards, because back then they didn't specify that, and so they had to like make up the bullshit on the field first rule. Yeah, God cards are hard because a lot of the effects that they had, they just don't get. Like, for some reason, only Obelisk gets the can't be targeted by card effects rule, which is dumb because all of them should have had that as an effect. They all have the if they're brought back from the graveyard, they go back into the graveyard rule. I don't know why Obelisk has the clause of can't attack after he uses his effect, because that's stupid. That defeats the whole point of him board wiping and then attacking for 4,000. At least if you're basing it off of the anime. Slifer's pretty much the same. I think there was a whole like let me reread his effect just to be sure. Slifer the Sky Dragon. Let me just make sure I'm getting this right. God damn it. Why are you showing it to me small? Blah 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 blah. Yeah, it has the clause of if your opponent's monsters are summoned in attack position rather than just summon period. Because in the anime at least, whatever position the monster was summoned in, that was the points that was being reducted. So if it became less than 2,000 or 2,000 or less, so like basically if it hits 0, then the monster is destroyed. But they put in the clause where it has to be attack position. Let me reread that because for some reason I feel like I'm misreading that. But just in case. Gains 1,000 attack. If a monster is normal or special summon in attack position, yeah. If the attack is reduced to 0, yeah. So yeah, that's like the one thing they changed with Sniper. With Ra, they changed so many things that it took like 6 support cards to make Ra decent. God, I'm gonna drink some water. What needs support now are the Wicked Gods. They definitely need support. Because so far they only got like one card or two cards that actually have to do with them. Or at least involve them in some way. Or help them. 3 if we count Egyptian God Slime, because Egyptian God Slime actually helps them. But yeah, the Wicked Gods need support. There's I think there's still stuff from Yu-Gi-Oh! R that hasn't been printed yet. And then speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh! R, I'm surprised they haven't turned that into an anime yet. Like, you can always say it's not canon or whatever the case may be, but I'm surprised they haven't animated it. You have to use your Dragon Maids. Yeah, I'm waiting for that one Dragon Maid to come out. So I can get her. As well as the dragon version of, I think it was Chamber? I think Dragon Chamber is the one I'm thinking of. Kind of weird though that they decided to alter their names despite their names already being perfectly fine. It's like they just had to find a reason to change it. Because I'm pretty sure Chamber is getting a dragon form coming out. Yeah, Stern. I don't know what they'll call it in English, but Stern is the one. Because they teased it like a long time ago and now it's coming out. And then I think now we have Ladies Dragon Maid, I think is the new one. So I think currently she's the only one that doesn't have a dragon form that we know of. I'll have to look because I can't remember if it's like officially in English or not. Because I forget if it just now came out or if we still have some time to wait for her. But it could be out now because it's been a while since I looked it up. But yeah, it's like Stern, and then there's like another one named Lady's Dragon Maid. I'll have to reposition her hand. And then just draw this first. And this is a sandwich. Just clarifying that. It's nothing lewd. Okay, so Stern is out. Alright. So I'll make it a point to get Stern. Because I have all the others. I just don't have Stern and Lady. And then right now it might be a good idea to stock up on Air Naos, because I don't think there's any way in hell that card is gonna get reprinted anytime soon. Because of the situation surrounding it. Oh yeah, it's very foot long. Actually, the way I'm doing this, I should probably turn it the other way. That's cool. Yeah, because I know on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, you can just, you know, get all the cards that they announce and just practice them online. I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro in God knows how long. But yeah, anytime I've spent money on Yu-Gi-Oh! Is mostly just to get specific cards. Because I don't play physically anymore because I have nobody to play physically. But I get what I like. Oi. Yes. Guess I'm gonna have to do it this way again. There we go. Sucks when they do that. Oh yeah, you got the new Metal Dragon cards. I'm glad they at least updated more about that. I hope they just go through everything of Yu-Gi-Oh from the very beginning up and just update the cards that have appeared throughout the anime and manga. And if something wouldn't work nowadays, like try to make an effort to make support cards that would help them. Because one of the problems is that even if they were to like make card versions of cards that didn't get released back in the day, the game has changed so much that those cards wouldn't even be useful or viable. And it's weird that they haven't come out with Halakti. At least not in English. Because you'd think that'd be a card that they would release. Halakti, the creator god of light. God, Black Wings. Black Wings hurt so much, especially with their non-once per turn cards. That's a good question. It's like, which one would you rather deal with, Six Samurai or Black Wings? Probably Six Samurai, because I think Six Samurai are like not as big of a problem. I have no idea what my main is. I like a lot of different decks. And did I make your tits too big? Probably a little bit too big. Just a little bit. Yeah, that makes more sense. Like, Black Wings is in that weird spot where it's like, do these cards need to be hit with a ban? Or are they like in the right spot where it's like, they can't kill you immediately, but they can definitely set up. Of course, it kind of depends on which cards get used, because some cards can get away with a lot more than others. I miss my dragon deck, but a lot of stuff got nerfed or banned. So I'll have to revisit it at some point. I'm sure I can make a new one. I just have to decide what I want to do with it. Maybe I'll try making a hieratic or supreme theme. I was using hieratics for the snake deity cards, or not snake deity, but the Outdoratic. Maybe I'll revisit that idea and mess around. Let me know if you want to test it. Maybe. I don't I play Yu-Gi-Oh, but like not as often as I used to, and most of the time has just been for like research for my own card game now, because I'm trying to avoid the mistakes that Yu-Gi-Oh has made. And if I want to add broken cards into the game, I should at least balance it in some way. Or if I do, like, let's just say my card game did have like a bigger audience and all that. If a card is being really, really, really problematic, then I don't have a problem banning the card and just making like a nerfed version of it, like a newer version, without having to errata the original. But like the main idea is for certain cards is like, okay, if I want this card to be really powerful, it has like a tier number, and then if you're, let's just say you're making a tournament and your deck has to be within a tier number of 60, then your deck has to equal the number 60 or up to 60. So that way you can use powerful cards, but if you do, they take away from you being able to use other powerful cards. So there's like a self balance to the game. Or a built-in balance. The only thing that could make that an issue is playing physically, but I would just boil that down to if somebody wins a match or whatever, then you can have like a judge or somebody deck check like on the spot to see if their deck number equals what it needs to be. Or if we want to get like more, like if that becomes like a problem, like obviously you can't have judges trying to look at hundreds of decks or whatever. Just leave it up to the end of the tournament where somebody's getting far or whatever, and then if they win and then you have the judges check their deck right there on the spot, then we'll see if they're playing with a legit deck or not. And if they're not, then well, you're doing this on stream or whatever, so now everybody knows you're a cheater. So that's up to you to decide if you want that kind of reputation. But that's just me. I'm sure there's better ways of organizing that. Okay. Hold on. I need this. Blah. Yeah, I figured as much. It's gonna be about there, I think. We'll probably lower. Let's adjust her shoulder. Seems a little bit too beefy. Let's see that girl deep throat the sandwich. I know, right? Yeah, this is all gonna bite her in the ass soon. It's like a necklace that makes me be able to eat anything I want. What could possibly go wrong? It comes with a gush of mayo. Well, you know, her sandwiches gotta have mayo. She's a cultured woman. She likes her mayo. I would say that with the necklace, Caitlyn could probably beat Marcy in an eating contest. With the necklace, of course. Nah, if I was gonna make keeping the weight as a punishment, I would save that for a different character. Like for a character that absolutely deserves something like that happening to them. With Caitlyn, it was more of just a mistake. It's like, okay, yeah, She probably should have returned the necklace once she realized, or the collar once she had it. But aside from that, it wasn't like she was being malicious about it. But if it was like, let's just say a character was making fun of Yorjadoth or like mocking her or something, or some shit like that, then Yorjadoth might curse them into being like a glutton. Until she's like satisfied or something. Like it probably won't be like a forever curse, but like enough to get the point across. And then it's like, oh, and enjoy the wait. And it's like, what? It's like, yeah, you won't be able to slim down. You're just stuck looking like that. Like that, I can work with. Because obviously, just making them eat is a hard thing for them to actually maintain. Unless I just completely ruin their lives. Still, like, okay, yeah, they basically have nothing with that for eternity, or at least until they die. Whatever story I come up with, I can make that work. But yeah, if I'm gonna do something like that, I would save it for a different character. I'm sure there's a character that will deserve such a punishment, but Caitlyn is not one of them. Or is not that character. So that's why I like to vary things up, because a lot of the time people will try to throw out ideas like that, but like put it on Marcy, and I'm like, no. It's like you can't have every idea go on to one character. Because like people wanted Marcy to be in sumo, they want her to be like as big as a mountain from eating. I'm just like, guys, don't ruin the character. And that's been my issue with some characters that I've seen online, where they kind of have like their character be the jack of all trades type of character, where anything and everything happens to that one character, and it kind of just makes them less interesting. Or when the environment can't accommodate for such a character. It's like, oh, here's this giant. It's like, okay, how did they fit through the door? And granted, you can make it work. Like, I've seen characters that are like that and make it work. Like, I think her name is it Maxine? It might have been a different name. But like, there's like a dragon character who's like very big, but they made it work, where she's able to get through like large doors, even though she damages them. And then sometimes she eats her prey or victims, and then sometimes she doesn't. So kind of just depends on what she's doing. But the artist made that character work, which is why I enjoy that character. But other characters, where it's like they are literally bigger than the building, and then they somehow fit in the building with no damage, no repercussions, nothing, and it just makes them less interesting. Which is why I explain that in Creamfield, because they're not in the real world, or they're not in the right reality. Elf can't lose weight right now? Are we talking about plus size Elf, or is this like a different story? Or a different, yeah, story or anime entirely? Because I haven't read part 2, so it could be a thing in part 2. this. I don't like how it looks. And then even if that is a thing, like again, I'll have to look at it myself. If they do make that a thing, where it's like, oh, this character can't lose weight, blah 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 blah. Now the question is, okay, you put that in, but how far are you gonna go? Because it's one of those things where it's like, don't raise the stakes if there's nothing to lose, or if there's like nothing, if there's no cash out. It would be like trying to say Super Saiyan is a thing, and you build up all this stuff about it, and then Super Saiyan never happens. That kind of scenario. Or like we don't see the absolute limit. We just see like, oh, they're kind of chubby, and that's it. And it's like, really? And it's like, we went through all of this just for the character to be kind of chubby? That's why it's going to be very interesting when I figure out how fat I want Caitlyn to get when she loses the collar. Because I want it to make sense, and I want it to work with the rest of the story. Yeah, I'm holding off on working on it at least until after the 23rd, because then I'll know what my schedule is going to be like. Which reminds me, I need to work on more pages for that. For the Webtoons thing. I'll be doing that today. Maybe that's what I'll work on tonight on stream. Because I'm going to try to stream again later tonight. After 23 we go Richard Bros. I wish. That would be something. If I somehow became rich, I would invest in Sega stock and try to influence certain things, but other than that, that's about it. I wouldn't really be going crazy about it. I know, give me another hard drive. I did upgrade my computer recently with a new internal drive. All these goddamn PC games soaking up all my memory, so I was like, alright, moving all that to their own drive. It's like, there, now you have your own shit. I still gotta test to make sure the Steam games that I have work, but they should. I don't see any problems with the others. Over a bit. Bomberman Hero had like a lot of ambient noises. Sometimes Hero feels like it was like a budget game. Only sometimes, like, I still think it was a good game. I mean, any budget game can be a good game. That's not the point I'm making. This felt like a lot of stuff was not rushed, but like shortened, if that makes sense. But that's just me. It's just like some of the feel that I have for the game. But I still enjoy it. I would find it hilarious if somebody gave like their cat a pillow that was in the shape of a sandwich, and then later on you have somebody eating a sandwich. I'd be very curious on what the cat's reaction to that would be. It'd be really messed up, but it'd be funny. Nitros is such a fun character. I just like his whole vibe. And he's just a brainwashed blue Bomberman. That's the interesting part about him. few empty boxes of these. And maybe have like somebody bringing her another one. Hello. Maybe a little bit bigger. Guy, any meat? I don't know, probably. Some yummy meat. Okay, now the question is, do I want to use a known character? Debating on if I want to use a existing character to bring her other sandwich, or if I should just make up a character and save the other ones for their own stories. I think I'll just use a new one because a lot of these don't. Excuse me. Excuse me. A lot of these don't fit the role that I'm looking for. Yeah, I'll just make up a character. No big deal. Is it bug meat or man meat? It would be funny if I just used the same bird character. It's like here's the bird on their time off or whatever. Here's the bird when they're working, and then here's the bird when they're done after their shift. So yeah, this could be before, during, and after their shift. It is like, what the fuck? It's like I've seen this lady like 3 times. Nah, I'm not gonna use the same character because if that was the case, I could have used them for something else. But it's way too late for that, so I'm gonna use a different character. You like that idea? Yeah, sure. Or, okay, if I do use this character and I have them, and I do it this way, I'm gonna make it so it only happens in this page. But it could be a thing where it awakens something, and there's like, it's like there's this girl and she just kept eating. She ate like so much food, and then he's like, I kind of liked it though, so they like look online for something similar. Yeah. I'm just gonna set this up for like a whole different character. So if I'm doing that, I'm gonna at least give them a little bit more details to their design, just so they're not too generic.
The game's over.
Now the question is, should it be a boy or a girl? I don't mind either or. I'll let you guys decide. Okay, we'll go with girl. But yeah, I wouldn't even say like chubby chasing. They just happen to see this girl doing that, and then they just get infatuated by the idea. And I don't know what, like, could always have like this girl like has a boyfriend and then she tries to fatten him up or something, or instigates it, or tries it herself. Whichever idea makes this work. So save the character for like another scenario, but definitely introduce her into this. This is her shocked face, where she's just like, I just saw her eat a mountain of hot dogs earlier, and now she's here doing this. What the fuck? Ooh, nice. Let's see. What's a song I haven't heard in forever? We can do this. Sure, you can use her, just credit where she's from. There is no more meat. The meat's been eaten. I would say that it's better if you make your own characters, because that way you have more to work with. Yeah, like it'll definitely help you out. But if you feel like using mine, go for it. Just make sure you credit where she's from. We're wearing like a fast food hat. Like, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. I don't know, or whatever restaurant chain this character would be working for. Let the song go one more time and then I'll change it. Open it from the front. Alright, you take care. Just have this character freaked out. It's like after she freaks out over this, it just like the thought just doesn't leave her mind after her encounter with Caitlyn. Like she doesn't could always make it where she never meets Caitlyn ever again, but she's just kind of thinking about it. I mean, odds are she probably would meet Caitlyn again if Caitlyn were to revisit the same sandwich place. But if I were to go a route where she just never encounters Caitlyn again, could have her like sitting there just thinking, and then she gets enticed by the idea of somebody eating a shit ton of food, and so I don't know, could even have her like scrolling around on the internet for videos, and then her wondering if this is like too lewd or something. She's like, oh my god, am I a degenerate for looking at this stuff? And then she's like, why do I still like it? Or she's like, why can't I look away? This is whole like mental gymnastics. She's just like, here's another sandwich that you ordered. Here's your order, miss. Yeah, it's up in the air what else I want to do with her, because like there's so many different routes I can go with, and the sad part is unless I do like alternate timeline stuff, I can only pick one. So I'm like, damn it, what do I want to use you for? At that point, I'd probably just go through the list of characters that I have planned, and then decide from there. But if I was gonna go off the top of my head, I would either have her try to impose the idea on someone else, like a boyfriend or a friend or something, or she attempts to do the same thing after watching like various videos, and her wondering if it's like as fun as it looks to the other people. Because she could be like, oh, they seem to be having a good time, and whatever other antics that kind of presses her buttons, and then she tries it herself or something. But again, there's like so many ways I can go about this. Or maybe like she has a boyfriend but then dumps him for somebody bigger. You know, whatever bullshit I come up with. But that's the fun part for these types of things, is like you can come up with many different stories. And then all it boils down to is which one do you pick? Or if you feel like doing the multi-story thing, then you just do all of them. Yeah, like she could try it and then it's just not the same. Like she gets more out of it watching. She's more of a observer. Nah, she's not that big. Let's give her normal sized titties. And then there's always the idea of having a character that wants to gain weight but has a problem making it stick. So can always pair that character with this character. Where it's like, okay, she's enticed by watching people stuff their faces, and then you have another character who actually wants to gain weight, and so you put them together so they both, you know, come up with ways to get like a shit ton of food, and then they go from there. And at first, it's like it seems like the other character is not putting on weight, but then something happens, and then they're like, "Oh my god, look! It's like I gained a pound." They're like, "Yay!" And then they like keep it up, or something. And then at that point, it's just a matter of like what the drama part of it would be. Like maybe it goes a little out of hand or something, or like this character, for example, might want to like keep it up longer than it needs to, or like maybe the other character like hit a certain weight that they were happy with, but then this character doesn't want to stop, or either or, like maybe this character wants to stop but the other one doesn't, or something. Like, again, many ideas of where this can go. Oh yeah, I remember Odd. So weird that they tried making a live action of that series. I was like, why? Why did you even waste the resources? It's just as weird as when they made the live action Ben 10. Oh yeah, Shaggy. Yeah, the most that ever happens with Shaggy and Scooby is like you can see the food they've eaten in their bellies, but then that goes away and they're still skinny. There may have been a scenario where they were actually fat, but that's kind of like a one-time thing. It wasn't like a consistent gag or a consistent thing. It was just more of a gag. Yeah, here's her all dressed up for her job. Slim down her shoulders just a little bit. Which would be more interested in seeing? Compulsory Gambler. If this is like your first story, start small and work your way up. So like pick like a simple story and go from there. Because I don't know what your range is. But in terms of like what I'm interested in, I mean either story honestly works. I guess the sumo thing would be pretty interesting, just like the winner eats the loser type of thing. Um, you would just have to figure out how to balance that out. in terms of like if you're gonna go for a realistic story, or if you're gonna go for a more loose story, like like where physics and reality take a further backseat type of thing. So it's just one of those things where you got to figure out if you're gonna make it serious or not. I'll put a bigger outline on these in a moment. Yeah, just go for what works. Another thing though is that you want to be careful tying things to other existing works, because it makes it more difficult for you to separate your own works from them. So like for example, let's just say there's a character who you base off of X-Men, for example, and it's like, oh, they went to Xavier's school, but now and you have like this whole scenario of them going through the school, like learning from the main characters, blah 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 blah. So you do all that, but then eventually you want your character to stand out on their own, and so you start making stories of your character. But if you ever bring up their origins, at that point you got to figure out if you're just gonna have a complete retcon of their backstory later down the line, or if it's still tied into your original idea, but now you got to figure out how to separate from that, because obviously you can't use the X-Men for your future stuff. If you're like, let's just say your idea goes further than that, like you're able to make books or whatever, you got to figure out how you're gonna break off from that. Because if it got popular for that reason, or it became known for that reason, then you got to figure out how to break away from it. So that's just something to think about. Like, you don't want your own stuff to be anchored down by other works that you've used over time. Obviously, this is like early day stuff, so like I'm sure that at a certain point you will like rework things in the future. It's just something to think about. So better to think about it now than to think about it months or years down the line, where you're trying to do more, but then you built up so much around the other elements of the world being used in other works that it's hard to do that. So like for example, let's just say like the world itself, like we say we started off with the Xavier School, but then the world itself is based off of like, I don't know, like Attack on Titan type of thing. Like, oh, it's inside this giant city because we have giants roaming around outside. Like, you got to figure out how to break away from stuff like that, because it's like, okay, so do giants still exist? And then like if somebody were to bring up if the giants still existed type of thing, then it's like, crap, I got to think about that now because I used that so early in my stories, and now people think that giants still exist, sort of thing. So it's just one of those things to think about. Meanwhile, I'm working on drawing a short 3-page Waking comic for my... Yeah, you just gotta have that. You just have to... You have to get the motivation, and sometimes you gotta force it. Like, I know a lot of people like to wait, like, oh, you know, once inspiration hits, I'll start working on it. It's like, You can do that, but if you're trying to like actually go somewhere with it, then you gotta find ways to motivate yourself without inspiration or without somebody telling you to do it. You gotta be able to push yourself. Yeah, if it's just inspired by it, but you have like your own original stuff, then you're good. Viro's the king of sticking to rules. Like hell I am. I barely stick to the rules. And that's where we realize where we fucked up. Let's fix it anyway. Well, we didn't really fuck up, it just didn't really think too much when I was doing this, but that's alright. Luckily I know how to fix mistakes like this rather easily nowadays. So move your arm to about here. Clean this up. But yeah, it's just more about understanding the rules of the world that you're making and deciding beforehand if your world is based on comedy or is it based on like an actual serious functioning world. Because if it's based on comedy, then you basically just do whatever the hell you want because it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to have like a serious story, then that's when it becomes complicated. Because it's kind of like Adventure Time, where in the beginning of the series, a lot of it was just jokes and random comedic timing and stuff like that. But then later down the line, they tried to turn everything into a serious story and serious lore and all that. And some things kind of contradict themselves. Or at least are less impactful because at first it was a joke, but then it became serious type of thing. And so it's just one of those things where you gotta like figure out how far are you taking it. Because with Adventure Time, they try to just give it like an actual ending type of thing. And then even though they, for the most part, kind of wrap things up with everything, some of it just seems kind of off in certain ways where it's like, okay, is Jake now that one shadow god thing? I forget his name. I think it was like Prismo. I think that was what it was. It's like, is Jake now Prismo in like an alternate timeline thing, or like how does that work? And then the whole like, oh, let's just copy and paste the crown and put it there so that way it gets destroyed by a nuclear warhead. And the only reason why they did that was because there was a animation error where the crown was still there, and there wasn't like an explanation for it, and so they later on just threw it in there to answer that question. It's like, we have no real reason on why this was there. We're just gonna make one up. Main origin of the character is found out. That's how Action died until her uncle gave Garden. It's a master underground swimmer on this world. Process she learns her 30 year old sister. The choices you let it go and go back to normal life, review yourself. Yeah, you just gotta think about the reasons of why things happen. So like, for example, you gotta figure out how does the main character learn about her sister's death and why was it told to her in the first place, type of thing. If she does go to the Black Garden, um, decide whether or not there's complications of her even being there in the first place. So, like for example, um, she can show up, but like just because it's like it's one of those things like, oh, is she just able to go in there just because she has the black card, or is there like more restrictions to it that would make more sense? Because if anybody could just show up if they have a black card, that means they could just kill somebody and steal it and use it or whatever. Then let's just say like for example, a news reporter gets their hands on the black card and then uses it to go there and take footage and see or blah 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 blah. You have to decide, okay, are they able to just do that, or if they could do that, what's stopping it from happening, sort of thing, or like you gotta think about the limits of everything. And again, this is assuming you're taking it, you're gonna go like super serious with the lore and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of it's just stuff to think about. It's like what's stopping X. It's like if A and B happens, what's to stop C from happening, or if C happens, does that affect D, E, and F, and so on and so forth. It's one of those things. It's like decide the rules of your world before you go too deep, and then it becomes a problem. That sort of thing. It's just stuff to think about. And again, this is if you want to take it seriously. I am probably overthinking it, and I'm just overthinking it because I'm thinking of it in how I would handle it, type of thing. At least nowadays. Nowadays, that's how I try to think of how I handle certain stories. It's like, all right, if these things happen, how does that affect blank? Yeah, and then you just got to build up her reasoning for doing things. Like if you're gonna have her like compete in this thing or be part of the whole sumo thing, you have to decide, you know, if it was her motivation to get revenge or whatever the case may be. You gonna show her like working towards getting to becoming the wrestler thing or the sumo thing, or are you gonna start small where characters are skinny and then it's like, all right, you killed this person, now what are you gonna do? Are you gonna eat, or you beat this person, are you gonna kill them, eat them, whatever? And if they do eat them, you got to figure out if you're gonna go the vor way or like the actual process into food way or whatever the situation calls for. Like if you're going to go a magical route, then you got to figure out the rules of the magic system, type of thing. So like for example, let's just say all the wrestlers wear amulets, and whoever wins their amulet or they decide to trigger their amulet, and if their amulet triggers, it like absorbs the person into the amulet, and then that's how weight is just distributed and all that. So you could go that route. um there's other ways to go about it, but if you do it that way, you got to figure out the magic system on that. It's like, okay, what's preventing the amulets from working elsewhere, type of thing. Like you got to think about that. So yeah, there's various stories that you could do. It just depends on how you go about it and how you make it work. But that's just me overthinking. Short story to risk anything. Who wants to join your friend, train, bulk up, and even get her foot into starting rings, which your uncle helped. Yeah, that can work too. Like you can do that. You can do the standard work your way up thing. So yeah, as long as you're thinking about all that stuff, if you're making it a serious story, then you're fine. Like shouldn't be that big of a deal. And I'm probably going to add more boxes. Anyway, gonna stop streaming for now. Thank you all for coming. I'm gonna try to make streaming in the morning um, more of a thing if I can, like either or. But I'm gonna try streaming again tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time, my time. So I'm gonna try doing that. Um, if not, then I'll try doing mornings again. Like I'm just gonna try doing both, and if they don't happen, then I'll try to at least on Discord I'll let people know what's up on whether or not I'm streaming or if I'm tired or whatever. But I am gonna try to stream again tonight. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I will see you guys again later, and you guys take care. All right, bye bye.